This podcast is brought to you by the Texas Hill Country River region in Uvalde County. What's super unique about this area is that the Frio, Nueces, and Sabinal rivers are all located in the same county. It's like the hill country that you know and love, but really rural, so you're surrounded by wildlife. And life just kind of slows down out here, so you can enjoy the simple pleasures like campfires and fishing and just enjoying the company of the people that you love.
Go to visituvalde.com for more info.
Today we have Steve and Dee, powerhouse duo, and I originally saw Steve on Instagram. I'm pretty sure that's how we met. Is you had posted some pictures of gorgeous star photography and maybe of Garner somewhere, and I commented. I was like, I'm obsessed. These are amazing. And then you reached out, and then I was like, yeah, come stay and take pictures at our place. And then nothing ever happened. It didn't work out. And now here we are 2 years later, and y'all are actually here. We just did an amazing astrophotography workshop that Stephen led. And yeah, that's basically it. The rest is history. But if y'all want to tell us a little bit about yourself before we jump into how the workshop went and what we did here, that would be perfect. Oh, and Dee is here and may be chiming in, but may not. But she is here and she is present with us. Emotional support.
Yeah. She will definitely correct me if something is not right in my story. For sure. No, I guess I'll talk a bit about us. So we've been together going on 13 years now. Is that correct? Yes. Are we good there? Okay. Cool. We've been married for 7. A lot of what we do, a lot of what I do, or even getting into photography, came from her. I grew up in Kansas City, and then I moved down to Texas. And just being a part of 2 big cities, I never really ventured out. Like what my parents called camping was, or roughing it, was 3 days at the beach with the generator and a hotel room nearby if you needed a shower. So I never knew what roughing it really was. And then we met, and as we were dating, she slowly started trying to get me outdoors a little bit more. It was a progression to see how much I could really handle and if I would be able to handle it. But yeah, so she kind of got me out there little by little, and then she grew up in the she grew up with her and her parents going to West Texas and Big Bend and traveling and all these road trips everywhere, and kept kind of pushing me to get out there. But even more so, just her getting me to get outdoors a little bit more got me into photography. I was like, oh, my brain gets to calm down and quiet down for a little bit, and it's serene and it's peaceful, and I want to take pictures of this. So that's where the photography side kind of started for me, and it was very hobby, and then it kind of turned business. And then as we went to West Texas and I saw the stars for the first time, it was kind of game over from there. I became obsessed, as I typically do, but most obsessions kind of die off after I get what I need out of them, and they kind of go away. Astrophotography has not been that way. It's since 2018. It's been pretty gung-ho, March 2018. So yeah, just it's kind of where I've went from the photography career. Ourselves, we house out of Houston, Texas. Just recently bought some property out in Terlingua, so hopefully kind of buy a house out of there at some point in our lives. So we're super stoked about that. And we have 2 rescue dogs, big in the dog rescue community, with Houston Huts for Mutts. So if I can give a little plug there, for Houston. And all in all, I mean, that's pretty much us. You know, I work for telecommunications. I've been with the company for 15 years. So being able to work 12 years in retail for telecommunications and then move over to kind of the business side and now the government side kind of gave me weekends back that I gave up for 12 years. So not being able to spend time with family on holidays and Christmas time and things like that. So within the last 3 years, we've been able to have that back. So we've been really kind of taking advantage of life as much as we possibly could. Did I miss anything? Yeah.
Well, we're definitely going to hit on the rescue dog thing later in the conversation. But sure. You did the astrophotography workshop this weekend at the In Between, and it was a huge success. I was impressed at the the turnout and just the way it all ended up working out. I felt like everybody there it was like everyone just kind of mingled with each other, and it was
socially distanced mingled then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we were
that
outside, I should add.
Yeah.
And we were wearing our mask and whatnot. But yeah, a really interesting group that came out, and I can't wait till you do the next one. But
do the next one.
Even Leah participated in it.
Yeah. So I was one of the attendees because I have tried to set up my tripod and my camera and to get pictures of our houses with the stars, having no idea what I'm doing and like kind of Googling it, but just also kind of trying to figure it out on my own, and the pictures came out horrible. So when you said you wanted to do a workshop, I was like, yes, I will be in attendance. And I definitely learned a lot. I thought my pictures, I was really proud of myself until I saw the ones that you took at our place. And I was like, oh, wait, I am no professional here. But yeah, so how do you feel about the workshop? And
I feel it went great. Like I felt like y'all said it was a weird camaraderie because it was like 3 different walks of life from all the people that were in there. We had a couple people down from Houston that y'all spoke to earlier. You had the couple that was from Wimberley, and then you had the other lady and her friend that were from Round Rock, right outside or in Austin, I guess. Round Rock's in Austin. But yeah, it was just all different personalities, and what really got me excited about it is when we were talking about it, when it was starting to come into fruition, and then we started to post about it. It's just the amount of people that kind of reached out and were just interested and wanted more information, and and that was kind of my ultimate goal. My goal was, I know everyone comes out to Garner for summer. Everyone knows Summer Garner, the Frio, partying in the river, hiking Old Baldy when it's 100 degrees outside, which we haven't done in a while. But my whole point was, when places like this, what happens in the winter, I know COVID's been a little different because you've continued to kind of have this influx of people that don't have to go to work or school or be face to face. So they can, we took off for a week and I was able to work remotely still. So I know it's kind of a different influx this year, but I'm always kind of thinking about what happens to properties much like them between when tourist season's gone, like you have that quiet time. But for stargazers, I mean, the cold makes it super clean, super clear. Humidity ruins your vision when it comes to stars. So that's why I'm like, well, when it's colder, I love to shoot stars because it's, it's pretty, like you're going to catch more. And then especially out in areas like Concan, because you're higher in elevation, where in Houston, where you can stand on the curb and see for 100 miles, versus out here, you get into the hill country. So it's, I don't know, it's all really kind of worked out in the way, I kind of saw it in my head. Everyone basically raised their hand and said they were amateurs, which is what I completely expected. People see the work that I do and they ask a lot of questions, which is exactly what I did when I started out. I asked a lot of people a lot of questions. So that's kind of what I wanted to be. It was almost like and y'all gave me basically a plane to be able to present that on and be able to share what I know and what I've learned, because I feel when it comes to art, when it comes to being creative, if you can help move someone along that wants to be there, that's the biggest thing. People want to do it. And if you can help them kind of move a step forward, no matter how short or big those steps are, I think, as a person that has gotten a lot from people doing that for me, should be able to share the wealth by all means.
Are you self-taught? Like whenever you first got into it, did you just start teaching yourself, Googling stuff, asking people, or how did you do it?
It was a lot of Google, a lot of YouTube, a lot of messing stuff up. I remember being out, we took a trip in Colorado, and we were in right south of Glenwood Springs in an area called Redstone. And it's some of the darkest skies in the US. And I was like, all right, I'm going to try it. First time, it was like 20 degrees outside. Oh. It was ridiculously cold. I remember she came out there for like 5 minutes and was like, nope. I'll be back inside where it's warm. And I was like, I don't blame you. My hands are hurting. It's so cold. And I tried a couple shots there, and I got stars in focus for the first time. But it was kind of like, it wasn't anything special. There was nothing spectacular about it. It was just like, hey, there's stars here. And it didn't hit home with me until we were in Amarillo. And that's kind of the drive. We always stop in Amarillo, stay the night, because Houston's kind of a halfway point between us. So we stopped in Amarillo, and we'd seen Cadillac Ranch during the day. And she was like, why don't we go shoot it at night? If you haven't noticed, a lot of my great ideas come from her. So, but she was like, why don't we go shoot it at night? And I was like, that's a spectacular idea. So we go out there in the middle of the night, and we just, kind of have fun, set up out there. It's just us, which makes it even better, because I love it when people aren't around. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love people, but I just don't like them in my pictures. But we, we set up and we take the first couple shots, and like, I'm just stoked. Like, immediately we get excited, and I'm telling her how cool they look, but she can't really see anything because I have everything on a tiny screen. So I can't wait to get it back. And, in my book, that's the very first picture you see was us out in Amarillo, because I feel like that's really where my brain kind of got kicked off and said, well, let's start to go down this rabbit hole and see what else we can figure out. And then once Big Ben kind of came in the picture, was like, oh, like it just, I hadn't seen stars at that level ever. And that's what really kind of skyrocketed me to start that obsession. And it was very self-taught. A lot of, like I said, a lot of YouTube, a lot of Google, reaching out to people that I saw that just posted amazing stuff and asking questions. And, like I was telling one of the attendees the other night, I reached out to a lot of people. Not very many will give you feedback. But the ones that have given me feedback actually are some of my best friends now. Like she always gives me a hard time. She's like, you just make a new best friend. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's, if people talk with me, people vibe, and, I vibe with them. And, it's just, I don't know. There's just something about auras that people give off, and you just kind of know, and the same way I'll support them as much as I possibly can and make sure I give them credit where credit's due. But yeah, man, that's it. Yeah.
Wow. So there's a couple things that I wanted to touch on that when you were talking. I've noticed that the few people who have been out and stayed with us, that were interested in astrophotography, you have to be dedicated. Like people who are into that, they are dedicated, because I mean, obviously you mentioned how you were out there in 20-degree weather trying to get the shot. And we had a guest stay with us. He stayed up until like 3-4 in the morning, just trying to get the right shot, waiting for the clouds to clear. And he tried 3 days, and finally on the last night, he somewhat got what he was looking for, but still, like, he would stay up all night and then spend the day out with his family and do the family thing and then do it again. So he did that the 3 days he was with us. But that seems to be a consistent thing with people who are into astrophotography, which you kind of have to be dedicated to it if you're going to, be shooting, because it's at night and it's not like your typical, it's not during the day where most people are awake and doing things. But yeah, that's one thing I did want to say.
One thing that it seems so obvious now, but I didn't know anything about astrophotography, is the connection between like the photography aspect, like you're taking the picture, but then also understanding how like weather works and the time of year and the moon cycles and all of that. I thought you just set up your tripod and you just point it at the sky and make sure your settings are right. But the amount of knowledge that you have to have of everything else, like that was new to me. I wasn't expecting that. Like, and also the connection between like dark skies, and because I know now you're more involved with dark sky programs and just understanding how light pollution's a bad thing. Can you talk a little bit about dark sky type stuff?
Yes, I will say Texas has, I think it's one of the most abundant square miles of dark sky still left when it comes to any state. I mean, I think the only thing that's beating us is Alaska, and then some of those other states where no one really lives, like basically like Idaho. Sorry, Idaho. But really where there's no one up there, not mass populations, not massive cities, around Yellowstone, things of that nature. So for Texas, it's very unique because we have, and especially near the Big Bend National Park area, there's a lot of areas that have true dark skies. I think Big Bend's the best because they go by Bortle ratings, and 0 is the darkest of dark, which would be Big Bend. 9 would be like a Houston or a Dallas. So when you look at, I mean, even like, Garner here, Concan, I believe Concan's like a 4. So you're actually on the better half of the list. So it's not perfect, but you've seen what we've seen last night. But imagine being in a Big Ben where that's a 0, like, and like nothing for like 1,700 miles around you is giving off enough light to pollute that. But I think what's also good is when it comes to dark sky and light pollution and understanding that is everyone puts on, lights on their houses because it brings safety, it brings security. You feel comfortable with it, but it's also, where's that light going? A lot of the old lights that you see that were running along highways and things, that light just goes everywhere. A lot of the new LEDs are getting better because they're pointing down. You'll see other businesses, cities trying to go to that. Not only one, because LEDs are more cost effective, but the light's a little bit more specific because it'll mess with, you look at Vegas, it messes with animals, any critters that are out there. Light will really mess up their patterns because they don't know that that's artificial light. They think it's sunlight. So not only does it affect the stars and your viewing capabilities when you're in specific areas, it also affects the animals and things like that. So that's why it's good to know what's going on, especially when it comes to that and what your light's doing. But in terms of Texas, we've been down to Port Aransas and shot stuff over the water because it's dark over the water. I'm part of the Houston Astronomical Society, and we have a dark site that's actually in Columbus, Texas. So no one believes me when I say an hour out of Houston, I can actually catch the stars in the Milky Way. But then, of course, you go down West Texas, the Big Bend area. I know there's spots in East Texas, a lot of your national forests, because they're so wide and broad, Crockett, things of that nature, will have wide open spaces. I know we went to South Llano River State Park and went to a star party out there. So just there's literally a list of all the different places in Texas, which, I think we're trying to knock them off one by one. We've done a pretty good job of it. But there's still a handful more that we definitely want to go to and check out. Did that answer the question? I don't know where I went with that. Okay.
Yeah. We love it. That's good.
I would encourage red lights.
The use of red lights. Good call. Thanks, babe.
Yeah, that was another thing I was going to say too, is that you talked about, you said, that she gives you a lot of great ideas. I think that's good. It's good to have a partner, even though that they're silent. You may not know it, but they do contribute. They have a lot to contribute. And I feel like she is for you, and I'm kind of like, we're like that for each other. But sorry, no red light.
No, you're good. Actually, I will touch on that because, my website says SD Irwin Photography. When I started my photography career side of it, it was us really kind of working together. And that's when we're doing weddings, quinceañeras, things of that nature. Because I really wanted to learn more about the craft, and there's nothing more you could do besides practice. We kind of trailed away from that because we got away from weddings because of bridezillas. And then it just became a lot to kind of deal with, and it became more of a job than a passion.
It wasn't your passion.
Yeah, and it wasn't my passion. She could just tell that I was stressing over it as much as I stress over work, and that was no longer fun. So I went back to my roots as in landscape photography, and that's where I eventually kind of, fell into the lap of astrophotography. But I kept the name that way and I continue to keep it that way versus just going to my Instagram handle, whatever it may be, because she's my direct creative influence. Like, there's a lot of times I will bounce numerous ideas off of her, and some of the coolest stuff that I've done. Like, I had the lightning one in Big Ben. She was like, "You've always wanted to catch lightning. Now's your chance." And I was like, "You know what? You're absolutely right." And that was, I think, one of my most liked photos this year so far.
Wow.
It was a lightning storm that was happening right outside of the basin, but didn't mean to go off on that tangent, but I just want to definitely give her credit where credit's due.
Well deserved.
Yeah.
Red light.
Yeah, red lights. There we go. All right, cool. No, red lights. I will say definitely use red lights when you're out in dark skies, or actually even if you're camping and things of that nature in the wood. It keeps the integrity of your vision. So it keeps your night vision. Looking at your cell phones is the worst thing possible in really dark places because it blows out your eyes. So red lights are definitely a must. And I think I always keep one in my car, and there's one in both of our bags at all times. And I think I even have a red lantern that stays in my car too. But number one, it's good for you. It's actually also good for animals. If you want to see wildlife out there, red lights, they don't get perturbed by red lights. They will by white lights, and they get freaked out and they leave. But if you're even watching wildlife, red lights are the way to go. But yeah, it keeps the integrity of your vision. I think with the LCDs and stuff that are in your phones, The moment you see one of those on full blast, I think it takes your eyes like 20 to 30 minutes to readjust to the stars. So, and I think it normally takes you 30 to 45 minutes period to kind of get where you need to be to see everything that you need to in the wherever the non-polluted skies are that you are. So
yeah, I heard it's funny you brought that up about the phone not, that being bad for your eyes, because I heard that on a podcast recently, and the gentleman was saying like the worst thing you can do if you're in bed is to reach for your phone and turn it on and start scrolling or doing whatever, because of that light. It's damaging to your eyes. But the red light, I saw you with the red light, and I think another guest had a red light too, and I was like, you know what? I dropped the ball in that department. I don't own a red light, but I did order one that night. So I was like, I got on Amazon. I was like right there and there. I was like, okay,
we'll have it for the next workshop.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, definitely. I'll have it for the next one. So
yeah,
red light's cool.
Yeah, I know a lot of people will talk about having red headlamps too. Red headlamps are cool if you're out camping or if it's like just us. But the problem is when you're around a group of people with headlamps, it's real easy to like not know where you're pointing that thing, or if it's on because you can't see it, and you'll just blind someone. So that's why I kind of say stay away from red lamps. Most like astronomy places or star parties and stuff will deter you from having red lamps or headlamps. They just prefer to use flashlights. So common courtesy, anyone that has camping courtesy knows too that you blind someone, it's not any fun. So
definitely not. Yeah, there's a lot of etiquette to know when it comes to camping.
Yeah.
And you know the ones who don't go camping, you can spot those out, and if you're out camping, you know who they are because they stick out.
I didn't even know that there was such thing as camping courtesy. Like I didn't know anything about that, because I've never been camping, so I didn't know there was a courtesy. Like,
yeah.
What? My mind is blown.
Yeah, having flashlights at night and shining them or headlights, like one of the biggest no-nos.
You always point at the floor.
Yeah.
Always point at the floor.
I mean, that makes sense, but I would have had no idea at all. Wow. So when you were talking about the weather and that when it's hot, that the star and humid, that I guess the stars aren't as visible. I didn't know that. And the majority of our guests, the majority of the people that come out here to Concan come in the summer when it's hot and humid. And so they're not even getting the full spectrum of the stars when they come out here. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think what's cool during the summer, so I'm not going to knock on the summers because I love my Lone Star Frio summers. But the summer, so you have a Milky Way season to where the Northern Hemisphere can see the core of the Milky Way, which is the brightest, whitest part that you'll see in a lot of my photos from here during the summer. So that season goes from March to about the end of September, going into October. October, it starts getting later and later in the sky. Actually, where Jupiter and Saturn is right now is the very like edge of the core of that Milky Way. And once that goes away, then Milky Way is gone until February, March-ish. But what you have during the winter is the winter Milky Way is what they call it basically. But when you're out here during the summer, pictures still look great, still looks beautiful because you still have a lot of visuals. I mean, even though you do have humid skies, you have a lot of heat given off because of where you're at, still pretty. And you have the core brightest part of the Milky Way. So it looks the awesomest. Like in front of the Garner sign, when I did that photo of you, I got tons of like this year.
I like that was a great photo.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, but seeing that, I mean, it's easy because it's so bright and it sticks out. And in the winter, it's a little harder. You could make out the Milky Way yesterday and it was pretty, or the last couple nights. You can tell, hey, that's the Milky Way because of where they cluster. But in the winter, you're going to see it much more. The stars are crisp, like super crisp. And everyone was like, oh, you'll know the difference between a planet and the stars because stars will twinkle. If the sky is clear, a star will not twinkle. A star will just stay itself. So a lot of people don't know that either. I didn't know that until I'd actually read about it. But yeah, that humidity is what kind of causes that humidity and whatever's in the air. An application that I use will actually also tell you what you're like viewing, like what your percentage of viewing is, if it's poor, average, whatever it might be. Because sometimes there's other things in the air, stuff that could be going on in Africa, and some eruption has shot ash into the air and it's affecting us. I think that one picture I have in the Frio, that's like my main panorama that everyone knows. it has like some dust down at the bottom, and that's from the Saharan dust that was being blown into our atmosphere. So it's just like you'll come across weird things that you have to look out for, but at the same time, to me, I like it because it adds a little drama to photos and you have fun with it. And,
What is the app that you use? You said you use an app to track that?
it's called ICSC.
Just so if people want to know what
Well,
that app is called.
Yeah, you could tell them about all the 6 apps that you actually recommend.
Man, I can go down the line with these apps.
I think they can be useful for the. I mean, I think everyone who was in the workshop didn't know about it. Correct? Like they were all new to it.
I think I sent out 3 in the email to all of them, just saying, hey, these might help you out. And I think the initial 3 that I sent out was the Sky Guide. So if you ever want to know where stars are, there's an app called Sky Guide. I'm not sure what it's called on Android. It might be the same thing, but I know on Apple it's called Sky Guide. Okay. But they should have something similar on Android. There's the Moon app, which will give you all the moon phases. Like I said, the best time to see the stars is when it's a new moon, not when a full moon, because a full moon is just a big ball of light in the sky. So if you want to view the moon, that's cool, but it's not going to help you see stars because it's actually going to kind of ruin some of that. That's its own light pollution, even though it's not really pollution. And then the light pollution map, I think, is a big one, because that's where you can kind of see near you where some of the darkest skies are. And that's how we found some places that are kind of unique. We kind of wedged our way into Dripping Springs and different areas like that. It's because we're like, oh, this is a place close to places we like to visit. Why not go there? You know, like near Enchanted Rock State Park, things of that nature. The light pollution map will basically let you see that. And I'll also look at the coastline because we're near the coast and say, hey, if we go down to Padre, or if we go down to Port Aransas or Corpus Christi, you know, this is an area around there that I can drive to, and it's going to be dark enough for us to be able to see some dark skies. And then the one I talked about was ICSC. So that will give you detailed information about what the sky and stuff's going to look like. There's a really kind of technical one, just in case someone knows this, but a lot of people that use landscape photography will always also use this one. It's called Photo Pills.
Which does what?
Photo Pills is really neat. It actually gives you kind of different things that you can use and kind of highlight so you can see where the sun is. What I like to do is actually use, there's one for meteor showers. That's new. It's kind of a night AR. It almost virtual reality will let you know.
Oh, wow.
Kind of where.
For folks listening, Steve is actually just showing us the app. So we're looking at it. He's doing a demonstration.
Yeah. So if you're out kind of, and this is where it comes into play where, you know, I do the pictures that has a tree in the foreground and then I have the Milky Way in the background. I can use this during the day and say, hey, this is the tree I want. What's this going to look like? What time is it going to look like that?
And where should I set up?
And where should I set up?
Wow.
And what time should I set up? Because you can go forward and backwards in time and kind of figure that kind of stuff out. So different things and different tools are all like it, you know, a lot of the stuff doesn't happen by chance. Sometimes it does. But a lot of it is a lot of kind of figuring it out when you get someplace during the day. You're looking around. I mean, I think when I got to your property the other day, I walked around and was like, all right, where's this going to be? Like, where am I looking at? What time is it going to be there? And I wanted to see in front of which houses was going to be the best. Like, so that's why it was, you know, it was fun to kind of go play, because once it started, I knew the ones. That's why I kind of pushed everyone, hey, take a picture in front of your house. Because I knew both, you know, Thelma and the one right next to it, we're going to have a perfect spot for where the Milky Way was at that point in time. And then I knew our house was going to. So it's kind of playing throughout the night where it's going to be.
If somebody is interested in getting started on it, do they need like the most expensive camera equipment to get started? Can they do it with their phone? Can they do it with the, like, what's the equipment that they would need? The basic, just to get the photography that
first of all, a tripod, number one. So always a tripod's one of your most important things. Actually, with phones, the newer phones can do it.
Really?
I think the newest Pixel, I have a buddy or one of the guys that I follow in Europe, that they gave him a Pixel so he could go out and do astrophotography with it, which he's a huge astrophotographer in Europe. And then I know on the iPhones, that was kind of one of the big thing is they have a night mode. So it can do like up to 10-second exposures. So you can almost set it up just like you do regular camera. Now, because the sensors are so small in them, you're not going to pull in the detail that you would out of your, you know, your Canon or out of my Sony or any of that, but you can do it. In terms of cameras, most digital cameras nowadays are going to be able to do it. You just going to have to be able to understand and navigate the settings and understand what they do and why they do it. And then what I will say is always the most important is people will spend a lot of money on a camera and try to go cheap on lenses. It is the exact opposite. Lenses is where you need to put the grit of your money.
Yeah.
I'd almost rather you have a less expensive camera model and a better lens, because that lens does everything for you. So when it comes to astrophotography, you have a couple different types. You have wide angle, which is typically the landscape stuff that I do. That's kind of my forte. You have some of the deep space stuff, which means you're taking a lens that has a long focal length and focusing it on very specific parts of the sky and trying to get, Saturn and its rings. And sometimes people even use telescopes that they attach to cameras. So
wow.
It gets heavy. It gets very expensive, very fast. I was talking to a buddy of mine and he was posting pictures like it was casual. And I was like, how much is your setup, dude? It's like 15 grand. And I'm like, no, not for me. We're good. I'll stick to what I have. Have a nice day. But I mean, there's, you don't have to have the latest and greatest, the neatest, whatever it may be. Some of my first shots came off of, it was basically my backup hiking camera, and it was a crop sensor Sony camera that I think nowadays maybe goes with the lens for like $400, and I could probably teach someone to pull off what they need to with that, because I had success with it. So
with your workshops, you can, if they just showed up with the basic equipment, you can show them how. That's what you do. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect. I know you were gonna say something else, or did you have?
No.
Oh, okay, I thought you were waiting. The book that you mentioned, is it for sale?
Correct. It is. Okay.
Yeah. And it's on your website.
It is going to be on my. I have my prints up on my Etsy page, but it will also be on my Etsy page.
Okay, and then
Sounds weird saying I have an Etsy page.
We'll put that in the show notes. We'll have the link, that way people can go and check out. And do you have prints for sale?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yep. All on the Etsy page?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Once we close this, I'll be sure we'll touch on that again. But I was just I wanted to ask you, just in case I forgot. You mentioned that you bought a property in Terlingua. What are your
that was my next question too. Let's talk about the land in Terlingua.
Yeah, that is exciting right there. Yeah. So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
It was kind of unexpected, kind of right time, right place for it to happen. We looked at some land out there, and one kind of came up that was kind of in the perfect location we wanted. Anyone that knows that area, the biggest city out there is Alpine. That's where the major university is out there. We're exactly an hour south of Alpine and an hour north of the park. So if we turn one direction, we're in a city where we can have some amenities and some good food. We go the other direction, we're exact opposite, and you're roughing it and in the dirt. So location wise, we were really excited about it. But being fans of the area and her kind of learning me to love it, I actually didn't really need to learn me, just needed to get me there. Once I got there, I loved it for all the great reasons, and especially all the stories that she had to tell from, when she was younger and going there. But I don't know, we just had this part of us that wanted to be a part of that community. And then also knowing that that's such a dark sky area that, for me and what I do, I really wanted a piece of that. It's not so much the land, it's the sky that I'm buying. And, I'm making an investment in land, so kind of it was twofold for us. And, ultimate goals, for us is really to be able to have a place to bring our friends and family that haven't experienced that side of Texas or that side of the US period. Because I've even had family from Kansas that told me they were interested in going out towards that area. But that was basically it. We wanted something for us that we could call our own. Also, if a COVID hit the fan again, then, we have a kind of a bug out area, and we need to get away from crazy for a couple weeks, because this year's just been nuts. Then we have a place to do it and a place to be able to be kind of off the grid, off the map for a little bit, and just enjoy each other's company, enjoy the stars, enjoy hiking, and a different community to call our own. So
that's exciting. I can't wait till y'all, because I know you were talking about it with me the other day, and you got some plans for it. So those plans they're exciting, and I can't wait till you actually start to bring them to fruition.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all the pictures that are going to come out of it, like the experimentation and the creativity that you're going to be able to do, because you're not going to be rushed. Like, you'll be there. It's your space. You can do what you want, and you'll probably be able to experiment in all kinds of different ways. Yep. So it'll be a whole nother book, a whole nother book in itself.
I hope so.
So I want to jump into now about what you guys are doing with rescue dogs, because when y'all talked about that at the workshop, you could tell that you were super passionate about the work that you're doing with the dogs. So can you talk about that? I don't remember the name of the organization. But.
Yeah, it's called Houston Huts for Mutts. We've been working with them since 2017.
Correct.
Yeah, 2017. Cool. Double checking. What they do is they're a 501c3 that we go into basically all the low income communities pretty much in Houston. And Houston doesn't have a law against dogs on chains. So heavy chains, tethers, things of that nature. Chained to a fence, chained to a pole, whatever it might be. We go into those communities and make sure they're, number one, they have proper shelter, food, water. If they need any sort of medical attention, we look at that too. But then also it's education. It's making sure that some of these communities, they just do what they were raised doing. Their parents did this or their grandparents did this, and they treated a dog this way versus we see dogs as part of our family. They're one of us. They're our pack. So that's really what we do. Push hard on the spay neuter side of it. We offer a lot of times we offer free spay neuter services because we'll work out deals with other places that will do it and say, hey, can we do like 50 dogs? And we'll go work on trying to collect them or getting them there, because a lot of times they don't have transportation. So they want to do it, but they can't do it, or they can't afford it.
So they can't take off work to
go
during business hours.
Mm-hmm. So we'll do a lot of different things. We've been a part of a couple of spay and neuter days. I forgot what the name of those were, what they call them. They call them something. But yeah, we were the ones that did their very first fundraiser that they ever had. We came in, they were, bless her heart, Alicia is a lady that's the head of it. And she basically built up a following of almost 5,000 people, just like on her own, doing this work, going out and about. I won't say on her own, there's volunteers that are there, but she's very face forward, very on camera all the time, very transparent. If you're PG, don't listen to her because she will drop some bombs. But she's just very passionate about what she does. And that's what I told her. I was like, what I knew about you see volunteers and everyone's very clean cut and saying, hey, I'm volunteering. The first time we met her shirt was dirty and ragged. Her jeans were dirty and ragged. And she was in some work boots that had been beat to heck. And I was like, I think this is going to be good because you can just tell she puts the cause before herself. And that's really what we wanted to get behind. And we got in good with them. We got in, we worked, hustled. We were out there in the fields. We've now been a part of 4 different build days, maybe 3 to 4 different build days, where we build houses to be able to take out and get ourselves in these communities. Actually, the last one was the weekend before last. We built over 80 houses in one day with a group of people and volunteers. So yeah, it's cool. It's sad. I remember the very first time, like, we went and did what we did. We were both completely quiet on the way home, and we're like, I don't know how to react to what we just saw or been through. But at the end of the day, like, I know I want to keep helping. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was kind of, from there, we just kept involving ourselves with them, whatever their needs were from the technology side. I started running the webpage for them. I helped build out the webpage. So when they went to go look for grants and stuff, they always like, hey, we need your webpage. We need more information. It had all that information there. So I did that work with them. She was running the Instagram and helping them out on that side, because even though we had a Facebook presence, Instagram wasn't really there. And we all know that Instagram has more people at that point in time that were big followers. It was pre-TikTok. So I think didn't she say something about her being on TikTok now or something? So
started it.
She just started TikTok. So it'll be funny. I'm sure. Yeah. Watch it. You'll get a laugh out of her.
Do you know the TikTok handle?
I don't know off the top of my head. We'll try to see if we can find it.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah. But it's been, I would say, rewarding, highly for us. We do have very sad cases, very sad moments. But what really makes us unique, we're completely funded by people that donate to us. Because we're not considered a rescue, we don't get the grants and the money that rescues get. We don't foster, so we don't get that money. The only money we have is just from people that want to donate to our cause, or, so can't find it. We'll find it and we'll
put it in the show note.
Yeah, sure.
And y'all have 2 rescue dogs yourselves, right? Mm-hmm. So, and did y'all y'all got them in Houston or from somewhere else?
Loki, our first one was from Dallas, near Dallas. Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. I was trying to remember where I drove to go pick her up. Or where we drove to go pick her up. But yeah, she was in Dallas. Yeah, she was our first rescue. And then Goldie was actually our second rescue. And she's actually from Third Ward.
Okay.
Yeah. And so Loki's a Chinese crested. So she's hairless. She has hair on her head and her paws and her tail.
Aw.
And she's a diva.
Aren't all dogs divas? All female dogs.
and then Goldie is a little more of a mutt, so she's kind of go with the flow. But what was unique about Goldie's case was that it was one of the dogs that was seen out in Third Ward, and she had got hit by a car. And the owners, I don't know if they couldn't take her to the vet, couldn't afford to take her to the vet, were afraid to take her to the vet. But had never taken her to the vet. So basically, when Alicia came in, she said, you know if the dog's in pain or anything like that. And she's like, no, we have no idea, whatever it is. So she went home. She couldn't sleep that night, came back and said, you're either going to let me take the dog to the vet or we're going to call animal cruelty, because you don't know if this because dogs can push away their pain and it not affect them and them still be able to live a life. But at the same time, if they're in pain, you want to acknowledge that. Oh. So that was kind of where she was at with it. So at that point, the lady surrendered the dog. So Goldie she does not have a functioning back left leg. We call it her sexy leg. Because, but when we first got her, we were told that it might have to be amputated, which we were fine. If that's what's best for her, we'll do and pay whatever it takes. The vet that we took her to said, no, I mean, if it doesn't bother her, it doesn't get in the way. I was like, it doesn't slow her down. Trust me, dude. Like if she wants something, I mean, it doesn't slow her down from trying to get a squirrel. Like I promise you that. But then she also had heartworms. So we spent probably a good 3 months going through that, with her, which was hard. Like I'd hate to heartworm prevention people. Like it was the hardest thing to see a little dog that has that much energy and life go through. Cause it was terrible. You had to keep them locked up for a month.
Wow.
You can't, if they go out, they're on a leash with you or they're in your hands. They can't play. They can't do anything. It was crazy, but I mean, she's better for it now, of course. So, but yeah, she's a little crazy, and we love them both. And they're like the siblings that don't like each other, but secretly love each other. I mean, well, Goldie wants to be loved all the time. Loki just hates everybody.
Aww.
Unless you're her people.
That reminds me of Pula and Little Bells. They secretly love each other when we're gone, but
our cat and dog.
Yeah, they
but when we're there, then they're like bickering. But when we're gone, we'll walk in and they'll be like on the edge of the bed together, kind of sort of cuddled. Like, y'all don't act like this when we're here.
No.
But so I want to know, and I think I might know the answer, but maybe not. Before we kind of wrap up and close out, what is it that you're working on right now that you're like most excited about?
Gotta put me on the spot there.
I thought for sure it was going to be the land in Terlingua.
It is, but at the same time, that's kind of it's a slow build.
Yeah,
like we're not trying to get it up and running tomorrow. Yeah. It's kind of, as our lives start to progress, like that's, we want to see ourselves there more and more.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I try not to get overly excited about it, because when I get excited, I obsess. And then when I obsess, it's like, I want to go do it tomorrow. Can we go next week? Like, can we drive 10 hours next week?
That's normal, right?
Yeah, that's normal. Yeah, sure it is. But I don't know. Like I get pretty excited about everything. Number one, I will say my biggest thing was really being excited to come out here. We weren't the ones that grew up coming to Garner. We hear all the stories from everybody, but we've been maybe 4 years now we've been coming out here. And I think it was exciting for me for different reasons. Cause we went out to Big Ben and I've connected really strong with Big Ben. I think here I've connected more so, I think, with your family. I think my relationship with your brother and your nieces, kind of got closer and better out here. And it involved many cases of beer, but it got a lot better and a lot fun out here. And to be able to turn around and see, I think where we were in our life when we first came out here versus where we are now in our life, I think that kind of comes a little full circle for me. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but where we are now is, I don't know, the track that we're on, I feel like was way different than we were when we first started coming out here. And I don't know why things like that resonate with me, but they do. So it was exciting for me to come out here, and I used to coach tennis. So I love being in front of people and being able to have people have that aha moment. So this workshop, I've been like super looking forward to it. And especially the fact that we can come out here together and enjoy Garner during a different time of year. And it's a new experience for us, and see colors on trees that you don't see in Houston. So, you know, it was a number of things that made this really exciting. So I don't know what happens after this. I mean,
workshop number 2.
Yeah, there we go.
We'll start planning for that one.
Start planning for the next
down.
one. Let's figure it out.
When you were talking about how, you know, coming out here is more about the memories and the relationships with your family, I think that's so common for this area. The people that have been coming since they were 2, or the people that have been coming for 4 or 5 years, is that, yeah, it's pretty and floating the river is fun, and those are all great things. But when it comes down to it, it's the memories that you're creating with the people that you care about, whether it's your friends or your family, and that it's kind of taking away all of the distractions of life and just enjoying a really simple weekend with the people that you care about. You're able to create those memories that maybe you wouldn't be able to create back home. So that, the way that you said that, it makes absolute sense. Like, Big Bend is for the stars, it's for nature, it's for no people. So you can get your pictures, but being here, it's about the people, and it's about the memories with the people that you care about. So
Sure. Absolutely.
Building tradition.
yeah.
That happens a lot. I think probably 90% of the people come out here, it's traditional for them. They, you know, that their parents did it, their grandparents did it, or maybe they came with friends for the first time and they wanted to start that tradition with their kids. I've heard several stories like that too. The full circle thing.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that? Like, what do you mean? You see it kind of coming back full circle.
I don't know. I feel like, I think you look at points in your life where you look for progression. And then you have checkpoints. I have checkpoints. Not everyone may not do this. So if you don't do this, don't feel bad about yourself. But I always kind of look back and I'm like, man, what was this like the first time we came out here? And even talking to, you know, the other people you were talking to earlier, you know, talking about our first experience when we went up Baldy and it's 105 degrees outside. And I mean, it wasn't at that point in time, we're not dumb, but you know, we got started early. It was probably still like 90 degrees. So it was rough. And, you know, we get up there and then we come back down, and I didn't realize how rough of a hike it was going to be. I was still kind of getting into this hiking thing. So I'm sure I was overly dressed for hiking. But then I just remember coming back, jumping in the Frio, and literally passing out. I think I fell asleep, nudged up against a rock for a little bit with my straw hat on my head.
Yep. Sounds like summer.
Yeah. But seeing that to where we are now, and you know, astrophotography wasn't even on my mind then. Where I was in my career, my job, I was in a completely different spot where I was stressing about everything, and now I feel like where I'm at in my life and where we're at in our lives, like we're in a much different spot. And to me, that's, I look back at those checkpoints and say, hey, you know, we're doing the right things for the right reasons. And, you know, whether it be luck or whether it be faith or whatever people, you know, rely on, or whether it's just hard work. And that's kind of paid its dues to, you know, for us to be able to be where we're at and be able to enjoy the moment, I would say.
Oh, awesome. Have you ever been out to this area during like this time of year?
No,
this is your first time. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's I think that's common for most.
It's a little bit different to be here with like without all the crowds and to like
it's weird,
quiet.
isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a different.
Yeah, it's quiet. It's peaceful.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, not
I'm
that
enjoying it.
Yeah, none of it's bad like during the summer, because like I said, we come out here to be around people in that time frame. But for the other types of travels we do, when we come out to places like this, it's to, you know, maybe not be around as much people, and it's to just, I don't know, enjoy the moment really, enjoy the weather, enjoy the stars, and enjoy the meteor shower that's happening tonight.
Yeah,
So
I'm so
yeah.
excited.
I think that.
Well, I
this
say
is-
I'm so excited. I don't know if I'll be awake for it. It's gonna hit late, right?
it's
You
going to
said-
start probably about midnight.
Yeah, that's
after
not gonna
midnight.
happen.
like I said earlier, dedication.
Yeah.
But I think this is a good stopping point, and I'd just like to say thank you for putting the workshop on, we also it helped us out a lot in the off season because it brought people out to stay with us. So
really, really cool people.
we really appreciate it, and cool people too. Not that we haven't had any cool people, but everyone's cool that stays with us.
That's just true. Very true.
So I do want to bring up before we close. You mentioned the rescue organization surviving off of donations. Do you have where can, if someone is listening to this and they want to donate, how would they be able to do that?
So there's 2 spots. If you go to www.houstonhuts4mutts.com, there's a donation link on there, or there's a donation page. You can actually do a monthly PayPal donation. You can do a one-time donation. I believe our Amazon wish list is on there. I don't know if it's been updated lately. We're going to have to double check with Alicia. But our Amazon wish list is up there. Also, if you just need to inquire about other information, also on there. Or if you follow us on Facebook at Houston Huts for Mutts, you can donate through Facebook itself if you want to also. I know that's kind of a popular thing now. It's easy for people to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All we'll have to get all avenues of where people can go to donate.
Sure.
And we'll put that in the show notes.
Okay.
As well as the TikTok account.
Yeah.
Once we find it.
Yeah.
I know
and
people are
we'll
gonna love
also
that.
put in your how to get a hold of you too. That way, if people
Absolutely.
want to talk to you about stars or workshops or astrophotography, so we'll put all of those links in there as well.
Perfect. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And if you wanted to go ahead and say what your website is too, you're welcome to do that right now too.
Yeah, it's www.sdirwin, IRWIN, photography.com.
Awesome. Awesome. I think we pretty much got it all.
Yeah. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
not just doing the workshop, but doing this podcast with us and taking a chance with us. And we're just so grateful for you guys.
Yeah,
So
we
thank you.
had a lot of fun. Thank y'all very much for having us and letting us be a part of giving some people an experience. So.
Yeah. And thank you for listening to this podcast. We will see y'all on the next one. Adios. Goodbye. Sayonara. I don't really have a outro yet, so I just kind of do whatever comes to mind. But thank you. Bye.